Hello and welcome to Compelling Conversations where Law Meets Business. I'm Dara Rosenbaum, a founding partner and attorney at Rosenbaum and Taylor in New York. My own journey has shown me the power of learning from others, whether from their mistakes, from their successes, or from their failures. And that's what led me to start this show. In each episode, my goal is to have a compelling conversation with a business leader, business owner, or other inspiring person who will share with you their experiences, their advice, and their perspective. I hope you'll learn from them and be inspired by them, just as I'm sure I will. You can find this show on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and more. My guest today is the wonderful Michele Risa. Corporate leaders hire Michele to dramatically increase employee retention, guaranteed. She helps them shift from 1P, profit, to 4Ps, profit, people, planet, and purpose. From the Great Resignation to the Great Retention. Having kicked cancer, she created 360 Health, where you combine science and heart to transform illness into prevention, navigate life's dark moments with ease and grace, and create a stunning, elegant life, however you define it. A global speaker, Michele has presented at the World Economic Forum, Viacom, Forbes, Barclays, United Healthcare, and TedX in Manhattan, including a 6-month program at the New York Stock Exchange, to name just a few. As president of The Only Source, its mission is to awaken, inspire, and empower humanity to a more peaceful, playful, and loving life. Michele is passionate about authenticity, being a poster child for aging as a 2-time marathon runner, adventuring beyond 40 countries visited, and celebrating the human family. So welcome, Michele. It is a joy to have you here, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to being with you. I love the time we spent, and I just want to spend more.
Sounds wonderful, wonderful. So, Michele, what, in your view, what problems do you solve or do you address for businesses and individuals?
I would say, just as the introduction suggested, to help companies move from the traditional profit-only focus, which I appreciate is important. You know, Milton Friedman told us that in the 50s, to a broader perspective that includes the 4Ps, 3 others, including people, planet, and purpose. And since COVID, I think CEOs feel compelled, right, to recognize a broader responsibility, not only to their own people, employees, customers, suppliers, but to society. And that's the opportunity. That's the opportunity, right?
And is there a symptom or an issue in a company that would lead them to contact someone like you? Or is it every company really should be moving toward those 4Ps?
Well, I will say I think everyone needs to, but
Okay.
that sounds like all of us, right? So let me say, when they're hemorrhaging talent, you know, it's not just because of COVID, or it's not just, you know, a recent problem. Having worked at Citibank and other companies, you know, we were sent to Boulder. I'm in New York. We were sent to Boulder to do whitewater rafting and team building, and we came back and they had checked the box and nothing had changed. So the environment, and I'm not saying this in a judgmental way at all, Dara, it's not easy for us humans to discover the best within ourselves and the best within others. But that's the opportunity, right? To crack the code of human potential and to use talent as a competitive advantage. Right.
So it's not just culture for culture's sake. It's culture because it drives other things within the business.
And it's an incredible asset, which I appreciate, again, is not easy, right? We have the tendency to want to impose, right? But any of us who are parents know that we can try to impose all we want on our children. Probably doesn't work. But if we model, right, those values, right, or ask questions and find a way to create a vessel or vehicle for them to discover who they are and how to optimally create a world that enables them to contribute their unique strength or skill. Wow, now we're cooking.
Yeah, exactly. So what is the approach when you get contacted by a company that's hemorrhaging talent and just doesn't understand why? What's the diagnosis process, or what's the approach?
Well, it is to spend time with them, honestly, Dara, to see that we're a good fit.
Mhm,
Seriously. It's a messy process. It's a co-creative process.
mhm,
It's not, I tell you what your company should do.
mhm.
I would be out of authenticity already, right?
Right.
I'd be doing exactly what I said you. So I too model
Mhm,
what needs to be done, right? And so it is spending time with them to see if they're really ready to take this leap. Of course, this is a leap. Again, profits easily to manage and measure, excuse me, and human potential, and growth and trust, right? And all of the elements, inspiration, or not just engagement, but commitment, loyalty. I mean, these are harder components to measure. And
mhm,
so I really need, and I do spend time with people to make sure that they understand it's a co-creative
mhm.
process.
And then what does the engagement with you look like? Is it workshops? Is it webinars? Is it one-on-one coaching? Like what does the engagement look like in terms of your work?
So it will absolutely depend on their goals and where they are in the process. So an assessment is really required.
Mhm,
And then together we identify those priorities.
mhm,
And I'm sorry, you're asking for process. So it's absolutely like this. It could be wherever they are,
mhm,
still live, but
mhm,
remote, if you will,
mhm,
as well as it can be face to face. We now can travel again.
mhm,
There are pre recorded materials, so there's their own on demand that they can do.
mhm.
They get homework.
Okay.
We don't change habits. Think of, if I want to play tennis well, I need to
Mhm,
practice on the
mhm.
court and get better at it, or learn Spanish,
Right.
or
Or
all of
or
it,
run marathons.
or run marathons. There you go. Thank you. And so, yeah, so all of it is, and it's customized, Dara. So everyone's not doing the same thing. So
Mhm.
let me not sound too woo woo, but let me go there. If
Okay.
I'm looking to discover the best within me, it
Mhm,
may not be the same process and elements for you to find the best within you. Why should it be?
mhm,
And so I give a smorgasbord from which you choose and sample,
mhm,
right? To then develop and we together confirm what will be your practice.
mhm,
So each of us are practicing, but something different, if you
mhm,
will, right? Why not?
mhm,
And therefore, it's a combination of my own formula, a group formula, and let me also say at least one, communication, right? To actually, in this time where a lot of us are struggling, right? To hear each other without the judgment, without the I'm right, you're wrong. And I appreciate that's an old habit, right? Or to even not speak and let me say, listen, how to really learn to listen. And I'll just say one more before I can go down the rabbit hole, but I
That's
won't.
okay.
To ask questions instead of make assumptions. So if
Mhm,
you've said something and instead of me assuming the words you just used mean ABC, I will say to you, what do you mean by ABC?
mhm,
Or how did you come to experience ABC? Or what did you come away with when you experienced ABC?
mhm.
So Socratic Socrates had something to offer us. So
I'm very familiar with that from law school.
okay, so among many things, that would certainly be one of them.
And I think that's a great point, because it sounds to me like it's a very personalized, individualized approach to to the people involved, to the company. It's not read a book or follow a five-step process or something like that. It's really tailored to what's already there, where they want to go, what their goals are, and what raw materials you're working with.
Absolutely. So the action plan that we come together is done together.
Mhm,
Their priorities, if there's, let's just say from the assessment, there's 10 things they can work on, and we know we can't do 10 things at one time.
mhm,
It would be to work with their people and say, and if there are different departments, right, what are your top, let's just say three?
mhm,
And then, of course, in the next 3 months, or again, will work together for the time frame because they have KPIs and other things they need to do.
Mhm.
But what's a reasonable time frame, and who are the key people to begin that process? And there's accountability along the way and measurement along the way, right?
So you said there could be 10 things they want to work on. Could you just give me, just give me 10, give me some examples of the kinds of things that that assessment process leads them to prioritize in terms of working on? What kind of things are they looking to work on?
So not having trust, you're
Mhm.
not feeling safe to take risks and share my ideas, right? Not feeling I have a path of growth in this company, a career path that, not feeling heard or given a seat at the table,
Mhm.
right? So, I mean, there's a higher purpose. Many people now are saying, beyond just what I'm doing, I want to work in a company that has a greater purpose. So many.
Mhm.
And so again, prioritizing.
It sounds like, you mentioned communication, but obviously communication kind of weaves its way through all of those issues because if people aren't communicating, you're not probably not making any progress. How do you help companies address that, the corporate culture with respect to communication?
We literally practice, Dara. It's again, yes, there are books and articles and videos to watch and be inspired by,
Mhm.
but it's once again sitting, let's just say, with you,
Mhm.
right? And um, choosing to maybe start not with maybe the issue you and I have. Let's not start there. Just
Mhm.
as if you were a family member, right? There's a disagreement that you and I are having, but
Mhm.
maybe we begin with something a little easier, which is, I want to eat hamburgers, you want to eat hot dogs. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
being very silly, but it's just how do I then unwrap, why you have that preference, and what we can do about my understanding that, and what flexibility we both have around that.
Mhm.
And maybe you never knew that I'm no longer eating animals,
Right.
just as a idea.
Mhm.
And so I need a tofu hamburger
Right.
instead. So
Mhm.
it's unpacking the assumptions that we have made. Even, and I've heard this with people who are doing it with their spouses. They would say, well, I know him or her so well,
Mhm.
and they never even thought to ask those questions because it's like, I know what you're going to answer me, to be surprised and hear, oh,
Mhm.
I didn't know that.
Right.
And so even people who you've worked with in your company for a while, this is a wonderful opportunity to stop assuming what we know. And it's a wonderful vehicle then to do it with family members because
Right.
we use the same blind spot,
Mhm.
right? Or excuse me, have the same blind spot. I
Right.
know you, so and to and let me just punctuate this, what we're talking about, to say, maybe even though I feel I know you, maybe you've changed. And I hope you have. I
Mhm.
hope, right, today or yesterday you learned something that gives you a different perspective or a different point of view on something that you didn't have the day before,
Mhm.
right? So, just to be open to growth and learning all the time. And maybe in this conversation, you and I decide to agree on a new perspective
Mhm.
and a different approach. And of course, companies, and when, with all the innovation that we're needing and all the problem solving, we need to have that open mindedness, right,
Mhm.
to do that.
And it sounds like the kind of thing that works, whether it's a small company, it's a two-person company, or it's a much larger organization. It sounds like these issues are things that are going to come up in different ways, whether you have two people or multiple divisions, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And let me just add an element that I think is happening as a result of COVID.
Mhm.
And more so, Dara, there are personal issues that never were allowed in the business
Mhm.
workplace. So if I have children and I can't get daycare, you would in the past never raise that to your boss as an issue. But I
Right.
think now, if you say, I need help getting daycare for my children's
Mhm.
because that's affecting my ability to produce here,
Right.
there's greater problem solving that's happening between us
Mhm.
that didn't in the past. So again, not relying on old ways of solving issues or being open to recognizing there's more than there used to be. And that's wonderful. So now I can be all of who I am here.
Mm-hmm. And I certainly see that a lot, when the phone rings with a prospective client for me or a longtime client who has an issue with, I'm not getting along with my business partner, we're having an issue with an employee, we just had massive resignation, massive resignation, or we're having a problem with, this particular group of employees. It looks to me like there's a lot of work that could have been done on the front end to prevent those kinds of things from really becoming big problems.
And then if without fault finding, it's like, okay, here's where we are. How
Right.
can we together accurately define
Mhm.
this issue and agree on that? And then again, open it to all the people involved. Often it's just the top that makes those assessments
Mhm.
and then the solutions.
Right.
And again, I think we're more open to saying, let the people who are literally on the ground give
Mhm.
us their experience,
Right.
right? And we might find insights that we didn't have before
Mhm.
as a result of their experience and
Yeah.
listen to them, right? So it's broadening the
Mhm.
many perspectives or points of view that we're willing to listen to. And I think people will find it'll be many of benefit on many levels, but not only might they add information that you didn't have, but they're feeling they were asked to participate and given a
Right.
voice
Right.
will make a huge difference in how they will now engage in solving that problem,
Exactly.
especially if it's and if they've done it with you.
Right, exactly, and I think that's something that I preach very much with when talking about operating agreements or employee handbooks or those kind of things where, if it's a more collaborative process and there are more voices involved, I think it's received a lot more warmly than it would be if it's just, somebody issuing a document, throwing it on your desk and telling you to sign it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And let me then say, for all of us to do this optimally
Mhm.
requires some inner awareness,
Mhm.
right? So I could, and the tradition is if you and I are having an issue,
Mhm.
it's all Dara's fault. Dara won't this, Dara won't that, or Dara's.
I've heard that before.
You're the only human on the planet, Dara. You're the only
Absolutely.
you're the only one. You're the only one.
Only
So
me.
given that unique role that you're playing, yeah. So just understanding. Let me just say that even if it truly is something that you're doing wrong, to approach you instead of as the critic and with judgment,
Mhm.
but to approach you with some compassion.
Right.
And just possibly you might be going through a hard time with your spouse or your business partner, right?
Mhm.
That has to impact maybe how you and I are addressing this issue. So I say that as to the extent we begin to address our critic,
Mhm.
right? I can then, when I'm dealing with you, I have the ability to shift from a approach that doesn't work for me, so why would it work for you? And again, come to listen and understand and not assume
Mhm.
and not judge, right? So
Mhm.
just that shift. But I can't offer you anything that I don't have. And if I haven't given it to me, I probably will struggle to give it to you.
Mhm. And I think that's a great point because it's something that I see and I talk about a lot in terms of even adversaries and business disputes, not even within companies, but on the external disputes. That if I can get people to metaphorically sit on the same side of the table, look at the problem on the wall, well, metaphorically, obviously, and try to figure out together how to resolve it, it's so much more productive than just folding your arms, standing in opposite corners, and screaming at each other.
And let me say, and this has been proven with research, even when it comes to customers,
Mhm.
when you have an issue and the two of you resolve it together,
Mhm.
the relationship is stronger.
Right.
The relationship is stronger.
Mhm.
And we not only feel that connection, it also helps us because invariably another issue will arise. And now we'll have a muscle, if you will. The muscle will be stronger to address that one.
Right.
Right. And so it becomes this incredible um, in expanding and strengthening foundation that we have.
Yeah.
So it's all good, right? It all ends up being of benefit that we went through that together
Right.
and have the ability to go through the next and the next and the next with greater strength, greater ease, greater vision, right? So it's all a win-win.
And I think it's a beautiful thing when you're talking about, sort of treating it as, okay, this is our problem, not your problem. Let's
That's
figure
right.
out how we can work on this together. Let's resolve this. Let's come up with ideas, as opposed to, you have this issue and I'm going to tell you what we're going to do about it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that's the old way, but that's why people are leaving. That's why people are not performing or producing or innovating, because you're going to probably not accept or hear what I might say. I may not want to risk even doing that.
Right.
And so you're depriving yourself of additional ideas in a
So Michelle,
time of
sorry, go
innovation.
ahead.
Go ahead. Yes.
No, I was saying, the approach sounds wonderful. How is your work helping companies address that great resignation people are talking about?
So it's going through their entire process. It's not just going into hiring and just hire anyone and go into the onboarding and training, right? So filling it. It is again coming into the culture, into looking at how everyone is working together and doing what we just said, Dara, to do an assessment and really understand a 360, right? And identifying, how we want to proceed, and to take some time, to really take some time, and even seeing those who are working in a particular, is what you having me do optimal for me? Maybe even I, who are working there, need to shift to another position. And it doesn't always mean a promotion, by the way. It could be a lateral shift where, we know new skills are essential, right? New brain waves, new neurons, the myelin sheaths need to
Right.
expand, right? And
Mhm.
so it's investigating all of that to again, based on the company, to see where their gaps are and see what needs their attention.
Mhm. Michelle, it is so obvious how passionate you are. I mean, you just have this
Oh,
tremendous passion and energy around all of these topics. Where did that start? Where did that come from for you?
thank you. It's true, which is why I love what I do, and that's really important, right? To love what we do, and then it's never work.
Right.
I think, not I think, I know that my the most important aspect of my life was to discover who I am, who I'm not, and what my unique contribution to the world is to be.
Mhm.
And I think we share that as humans. I think that's, the question we all ask, or nothing is all, so excuse me, many of us ask,
Mhm.
right? So to help people discover that, and I'll just say, I just was at a wedding this weekend and I met people I hadn't seen in years, and to hear from them, I was like a deer in headlights, what impact I've had on their life. And
Wow, that's
even to
wonderful.
this day, right, they were saying, what you gave me as a tool, I'm still using. I mean, it's modified, but a lot of what I gave was meditation.
Mhm.
So in different ways and different approaches, just to feel that you've had an impact on someone's life, so they live a quality of life, and as when you introduced me, however they define a
Mhm.
magnificent life is, I mean, I can feel it as I say it. It just brings chills to my body, and I'm delighted. And let me just say it, beyond just you and me, it helps all of us, Dara. Then the whole society begins to change when we each change, right? We're again interconnected. COVID tried to teach us that we
Right.
are interconnected,
Mhm.
and even through our breath. And so this changes the quality of our society.
Mhm.
And not obviously, in my heart, because I want to answer your question, it's always been for us to live in peace,
Mhm.
for us to live, and I think now's the time to live collaboratively.
Mhm.
Go back to that tribe, to be a village
Mhm.
again. And I'm sorry, since you said I was an advocate of aging. I hear that there's going to be intergenerational living now, to not take older people and just sending them, to a nursing home somewhere, and
Mhm.
to once again believe there are lessons and wisdom and insights that
Mhm.
older people might have, with their families. And I
Mhm.
appreciate it's challenging and it may not appear to be the easiest. But then again, can we have compassion for health issues that unfold? And I'll say one more. And might we redefine aging? People say to me how old they are, and I often say, I really don't care how many times you've circled the sun.
Mhm.
That tells me nothing about who you are.
Mhm.
Now tell me more about the contents of your passion, of
Mhm.
your heart, and what you've acquired over these times of circling the sun.
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
interested in knowing that.
Mhm.
Who are you?
Mhm.
And what do you stand for?
Yeah. It feels to me like you've had such a journey. I mean, it feels like you've had a tremendous journey in terms of this sort of evolution of thought and this approach that you take, which obviously you're very passionate about. What's one thing that you've learned along the way that you wish you'd known earlier?
Hmm. And that I have the answer. And I'll say it as a whisper into my 3 or 5 year old's ear,
Mhm.
and ask her to really hear this. And
Mhm.
the whisper would be, you are loved.
Mhm.
You are loved.
It's beautiful. That's beautiful. And as a sitting here as a mom of a 3-year-old, that's really beautiful, and that speaks to me very deeply.
We forget.
Mhm.
And we forget that is also our responsibility to learn how to love
Mhm.
us, to feel loved, as opposed to hoping mom or dad or whoever,
Mhm.
spouse, job, manager, yeah,
Mhm.
will, government,
Mhm.
pick whichever, to to realize it has to start with us.
Mhm.
And then I come to you, boss, spouse, parent, filled with that energy.
Mhm.
Now, the miracles we can create together.
Yeah. Yeah. I know we've talked about you have a monthly program called Healing Conversations. Tell me a little bit more about that.
And it absolutely is part of what I mentioned to you earlier.
Mhm.
However, in this case, people from all over the world, we do it virtually. Prior to COVID, I did it literally in New York,
Mhm.
meeting in physical spaces, from this tri state area.
Mhm.
And now it's everyone from all over coming, recognizing the polarization many of us are experiencing
Mhm.
in any country, in any situation, within communities, workplaces, families. There are family members no longer speaking to each other.
Mhm.
And it's painful.
Mhm.
And again, all of what we just spoke about, Dara, is what they get to practice.
Mhm.
Right? So we have certain agreements, if you will, and which is open-mindedness or being respectful. I mean, we define them. Again, I know I'm just throwing out words, but clearly, what it means to be curious,
Mhm.
the Socratic asking of questions. And it's one thing to hear them. Okay, I agree. And now we choose one each time we meet, and we really dive into, let's keep with questions. What does it mean to be curious? And what did I learn? Not try to answer, because we go to solving it and let's just answer this problem. You know, hamburgers, hot dogs.
Right.
Let's just agree we'll eat hamburgers this time. No, no,
Right.
that's not what we're looking for. How do I use the Socratic approach or asking questions
Mhm.
to learn more about you and appreciate, right? So that even before we come to a mutually agreed upon answer,
Mhm.
we've already strengthened our relationship significantly.
And how can people join you for that program?
Okay, it's the page is on my website, which is collaborativesolutions.co.com, and then it's healing-convos. But if you go to collaborativesolutions.co.com, you'll see a tab, Healing Convos, and all the information will be there to join us every month. And it is free. It is my gift to the world, my pleasure for us to begin there. I mean, it will not solve everyone's issues. Again, we need to practice, and we're developing a deeper healing conversations program so that, again, we can practice more and become masterful at communication.
And I'll certainly include all of those website addresses when I post the video.
Okay, thank you.
And how can people get in touch with you?
They can, by my website, there's a contact form, certainly by email, just mrisa11@gmail. Very happy to respond by email as well.
Perfect.
Or LinkedIn, please. Just Michele Risa it's Michele, 1LRISA. And please reach out to me on LinkedIn. Be delighted to connect and see how we can, as human beings, not sell, just support each other on this incredible journey that we're on and navigate together. Happy to.
Thank you. Well, Michele, like as I said, you're so passionate and so committed to all these ideas. And thank you so much for sharing that with us. This was a wonderful conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Dara.
And thank you again.
Love being with you. Thank you.
Thank you.